Welcome back to another installment of our Alert Manager Enterprise video tutorials. In this video, we will be exploring the SLA features of AME that was introduced recently with the release of AME version 3.2. Service level agreements are a new addition to AME that allows you to define fine-grained policies to allow the management of service levels associated with events within AME. Service levels can be defined per tenant and is defined through the tenant configuration section. The SLA system in AME is robust, featuring the ability to model time zones, service hours, as well as non-working days such as holidays and absences. SLAs in AME is governed by an objective, and multiple objectives can be defined per tenant, allowing configuration of the conditions that will apply to each individual SLA. As an example, we will create an SLA to model response time. Each SLA objective requires a name. In our example, we call it response time, together with an appropriate description. We can define a threshold, which is the amount of time that is available for this SLA condition, meaning the period in which the SLA must be fulfilled, and after this time, the SLA is considered violated. Next, for the violated state, a notification interval can be defined, which sets an interval to send notifications until the SLA state is no longer violated. In our example, we will be generating a notification every hour. Lastly, a threshold for a reminder can be set. This can be defined and will be evaluated before the SLA breaches, and can be used as a reminder to teams that the SLA is in danger of being violated. To define which events should be governed by our SLA, we need to define the start and stop conditions using the familiar syntax employed by the AME rule engine. In our example, we have many events for our tenant, and only some of them should be governed by our SLA condition. For example, alerts that are SLA bound are generated with a title containing the keyword SLA. For the start condition, we evaluate whether the event has this SLA keyword defined, and when matched, this will trigger the start condition. We also want to ensure the SLA condition only applies to events that are not in the new state. We consider an SLA for our events as new, meaning when the event is not yet in progress. Once the event is in progress, the SLA condition for the state has been met, and for this, we need to ensure that the stop condition reflects this appropriately. We also need to define which notifications will be triggered in the event of an imminent violation, as well as a violation. For this notification to be sent, we need to define a scheme within AME. This can be done in the tenant section under notification schemes. We will add a new scheme called SLA violation. And to this scheme, we add a flow. We will ensure that this only matches when the event violated the SLA. And we will associate it with our specific target, which can be whatever you use in your AME environment. Notification targets such as Slack, email, and whichever are currently supported by AME today. Additionally, you can also update event metadata, meaning, for example, if an SLA has been breached, you can set the urgency of the event to a higher order to ensure that this is highlighted in the event view panel when analysts are perusing events within AME. As mentioned previously, you can have multiple SLAs defined that operate on the same events. And for our SOC tenant, we would also like to model the time to resolution. Again, this requires us to add an objective for this SLA state. Here we will again be mapping the parameters matching on the event title. We would like to ensure that once the event is done, the stop condition fires and the SLA is no longer counted. Using this mechanism, you can model both the time it takes for the first responder as well as the total time the event took to resolve. Let's move on to other functionalities of the SLA engine. On the configuration page, you can set a configuration for your tenant, where you can model the time zone to be used, as well as working hours and holidays. It is important to note that the windows defined here are instructing the SLA engine not to count these periods when evaluating SLA rules. If you are an MSSP using Alert Manager Enterprise, you can use these to model the specific requirements of your customers, including work hours and holidays. Recurring holidays can be added as needed, as well as specific holidays that are non-recurring. Working hours can also be defined using an easy-to-use visual interface, where you can define the appropriate working hours for your teams. Lastly, a reporting dashboard is available to report on SLA metrics. This includes key details such as fulfillment versus violations, details per tenant, and so forth. Thanks again for joining us. Please refer to Alert Manager app for any additional resources around Alert Manager Enterprise.